characters, incidents, names, and situations used in this story are fictitious. The resemblance to any person living or dead is purely coincidental. The following video contains some horror elements and suitable for a mature audience, 16 plus. This channel and video is not for kids. Hello friends, I am Arian, and welcome to our channel, Midnight Horror Stories, where you get to hear true and scary ghost stories. But before starting the story, all the friends who have come to this channel for the first time, please subscribe to the channel, and if you like the story, then definitely introduce yourself in the comment section. Then let's do not take much time and start our story quickly. Today I have a very horrible incident for you. The incident I am going to mention in front of you today. It is not of today's time, but of the time when India used to be rural India and cities were developing. Now in that time, it was very much seen to have such paranormal things inside the village. Now the incident that I will share with you today is an incident that you will be surprised to hear, and do not ask the extent of fear. Can you believe someone is dead? Can humans come back to life? So far, science says that once the heart stops, one cannot live again. However, I cannot say whether such technology will come in the future, but for the time being, we believe that once a person dies, a person cannot be alive again. And this is what our religious texts also say, that everyone has to leave this earth. The soul has to leave one body and go to another body. But in the incident that came before me, there was a very surprising incident. It happened that a young boy dies unnaturally, and later an aghori does not know what tantra he does, that after burying his body in the crematorium, he again takes it back from the ground and breathes life into it. Now, if any God does this, then we can also believe that there can be a miracle of God. But when the aghori can do such things, then who will ask God? Then there will be the same doubt in your mind. If the aghori can give birth and death to everyone, then what will be the importance of God? But these aghoris, there is a very terrible black truth hidden behind this action, which ordinary people like us cannot easily grasp. Only those things can be understood by the great ascetic, who is a proven great man. What tantra action has been done by that aghori, and when he goes against nature by doing such an action, then it also has to suffer very bad consequences. And I am going to prove this in front of you today in the story. There was a small village on the way from Gorakhpur to Nepal. Haritpur. The population in this village was not much, but all the people living in the village were very hardworking and honest to live their lives. There was no difference of opinion among the people of the village, nor did anyone waste their time in useless chatter. Everyone lived happily together and was always present in need of others. 1. On the day when the farmers of that village were returning from their fields in the evening after doing their work, suddenly their eyes fell on an aghori sitting meditating under a tree in front of them. The farmers were terrified to see the aghori, who was tall and broad and black like ebony. The aghori had a long beard and mustache on his face, and a long strand of hair was hanging from his head. There was a large tripund made of ashes on the forehead, and there were garlands of large rudraksha around the neck and both hands. There was only a lion's skin on his long, broad body. Except that aghori was not wearing anything. Dinu, a farmer, said in a panicked voice to Shamu standing next to him, "Hey, where did this aghori come from all of a sudden in our village? Look at how tall his stature is, and there is a different sharp look on his face too." Shamu also agreed and said, "Yes, brother, I am feeling very strange nervously seeing that monk." Then an old farmer present there said, "Hey, look at the two of you carefully. He is not a monk but an aghori." Shankar also spoke with surprise. "Aghori? Where did this aghori come from and why? It went to our village. I'm scared to just see it." Before anyone else could say anything, the aghori, who was sitting in meditation, suddenly opened his closed eyes and spoke in a heavy roaring voice. "Listen, villagers, from now on I will stay in your village. But I will not build my shelter inside the village but under this tree outside the village. Tell everyone in the village that no one should come around my house. I will never set foot in the village." Shankar folded his hands and said, "Baba, this path is ours. It's a village. We have to go to our farm through this route every day. If we don't go this way, we'll have to travel a long way to reach our farm." The aghori stood up, flushed with anger. Then he said in a fiery voice, "I have said once that from now on no villager will come from this side." Yes, sir. If anyone even thinks of coming here now, then he will be responsible for his own ruin. Let's get out of here now. It's time for my sadhana soon." Old Haria quickly rested. He signaled the farmers to leave from there, and all of them walked quickly from there to their village. As soon as they reached the village, all the farmers did not go to their homes and went directly to the house of village Sarpanch Bishan Singh. Then Haria explained to Bishan Singh by telling him about that aghori. You should send a warning to all the houses in the entire village that from now on no one will pass through the path where the aghori is meditating. There will be no benefit in engaging with such aghoris in vain. On the contrary, he may get angry and bring trouble to our village. Anand Singh immediately said, Your point is absolutely right. Haria Kaka, I will send my 2 servants right away to give this news to the village. Throughout the night, there was only discussion of that Aghori Baba in every house in the village. From the very next day, all the farmers of the village started using the circuitous, long route to reach their fields. In this, it took more time for them to reach the fields, but the difficulty was that they had no other choice. In the same way, it has been almost 8 days since those farmers came and went through that long, winding path were. One evening, when Dinu was coming back to the village with his companions, suddenly his attention was drawn to the broken mate of his field. A small animal had probably dug up the mud and made a way for itself to come and go in the burrow. Dinu said worriedly, Hey, what's this? How is my farm med broken? If I don't fix it, irrigation water won't stay in my field. Shamu said upset. It's evening now. It will be dark in a little while. If you start fixing this med now, it will be night. Then we were in the dark. How do you get to your village? On top of that, if a wild animal comes here, it will be more trouble. Just last week, a wolf walked into our village in search of prey. Dinu thought, Do this. All of you go towards the village. I will get this med fixed and come to the village immediately. Shamu refused. How can I leave you here alone? No, come with us. Dinu insisted. Hey Shamu, just understand what I am saying. This med needs to be repaired today, and don't worry about me. I'm running. And anyway, Haria Kaka has a big problem walking in the dark, so don't be late and leave for the village quickly. Finally, on Dinu's insistence, the rest of the farmers had to obey him, and they all left Dinu on the field and left for the village. Dinu glanced at the setting sun and hurriedly began to repair the broken mate of his field. After a while, when he had repaired the broken med properly, he took his basket and shovel and left the field to go home. He left for the village, but he had hardly gone when the evening fell completely and the darkness of the night fell everywhere. Seeing it getting dark, Dinu panicked because it was very difficult to reach his village through that long, winding path in this darkness. After thinking for a while, Dinu finally decided that instead of the long, winding path to go to his village, he would use the path which was short and straight and where the aghori had now taken possession. Dinu muttered to himself, I walked quickly across that path. I'll take it. Anyway, in this deep darkness, that aghori will be sitting meditating under the tree. How will he know about me? Dinu now changed the path and started walking quickly on the path on which aghori was sitting under a tree. As soon as Dinu reached the tree, his heart started trembling with panic. His steps began to falter, but he somehow kept on moving forward with courage. But as soon as Dinu reached in front of that tree, the meditating aghori, sitting under that tree, suddenly opened his closed eyes and he said in a loud voice, Who are you? How dare you break my attention? Now you must taste the fruits of your actions. Dinu went straight to the feet of the aghori, trembling for a long time, and cried and said, Forgive me. I will never forget to go down this path again. Dinu's cries and begging had no effect on the aghori, and he picked up a trident kept near him and buried it directly on Dinu's back. Screaming in terrible pain, Dinu started returning to the mud, and in a few moments, inside he took his breath away. As soon as Dinu died, the aghori took out his trident from Dinu's back and buried it in the soil near his seat. Then the aghori started performing some aghori rituals while reciting the mantra on Dinu's dead body. Yam Yama Yama, Bhakshma, Bhakshma, Bhakshmi, Shashan, Pritam, Avahanam. The aghori continued to perform his rituals while reciting such strange mantras. And then after about 10 minutes, suddenly Dinu's dead body started moving, and then he slowly started flapping both his hands like the wings of a bat. And then Dinu's body was completely transformed into a bat, and flapping his wings, he flew and hung upside down on top of the same tree under which aghori had made his hideout. On the other hand, when Dinu did not return to his house, even late in the night, his family members searched for Dinu, and went to the house of other farmers of that village and started questioning. Soon, some peasants with lanterns and sticks in their hands set out in search of Dinu. Somehow, in the darkness of the night, when in the light of the lantern, they walked through that long path to the fields. When they arrived, there was no trace of Dinu. They searched everywhere and looked everywhere. But when there was no trace of Dinu, everyone got very upset. Then with great courage, they all went towards the tree where the aghori was sitting. But out of fear, they stopped just before the tree and looked at the aghori carefully. The aghori was sitting in deep meditation. Seeing this, those farmers again gave up the intention of going to aghori and returned to their village in despair. When Dinu's family came to know about Dinu's disappearance, they were all devastated and saddened. But what could they do now? Everyone speculated that perhaps the wild animal, which went out in search of prey in the dark of night, must have made Dinu its prey. From that day onwards, all the villagers decided that from now on, no farmer would ever stay on the fields after dusk. Everyone will leave the village together and come back to the village together. About 2 weeks passed peacefully like this. Then suddenly, one evening, when all the children of the village were playing on the banks of the old pond of the village as usual. So in those children, the youngest, 6-year-old Ramesh, vomited and fell on the ground near the pond. Seeing Ramesh's condition, the children playing with him started screaming in panic. Hearing the screams of the children, 2-3 people who were bathing in the pond came running there and tried to bring Sonu to consciousness by sprinkling water on him. But when Sonu did not regain consciousness, even after trying all of them, then a man quickly picked up Sonu in his arms and took him to Sonu's house. Seeing his child in such an unconscious condition, Sonu's mother and grandmother started crying in panic. When his father asked the man in panic, the man immediately started telling how Sonu suddenly fainted while playing on the bank of the pond with the children. When Sonu did not make any difference, even with home remedies, and did not come to his senses, Ramesh's father immediately picked up Ramesh in his lap and ran fast with him to the village doctor. Falling at the feet of the doctor, Manikya's father prayed to save his son. But when the doctor put his hand on Ramesh's forehead, he was horribly shocked, because Ramesh's forehead was as cold as ice. The doctor then hurriedly checked Ramesh's pulse and tried to listen to his heartbeat, but Ramesh's pulse and heartbeat had all stopped. With great sorrow, the doctor then placed his hand on Manikya's father's shoulder and said softly, "It is late to bring Ramesh here. Now this poor man's life has flown away. It will be of no use. Now with any treatment, it is not going to come to consciousness again." It was as if lightning fell on Ramesh's father. After 7 years of marriage, somewhere she had a child in the form of Ramesh. Hearing the news of the sudden death of that one only child, his heart and mind were shaken. He started crying like a child with his son Ramesh in his lap like a madman. By then, after getting the news, many more people of the village also came there. With great difficulty, they managed Ramesh's father, who was suffering from grief, and then everyone picked up Ramesh's dead body and came back to his house. When Ramesh's grandmother and mother got the news of Ramesh's death, they both started crying and banging their heads in disbelief. So small, due to the death of the child, there was complete mourning in the whole village, and everyone sat outside Ramesh's house. But as dusk began to fall, Ramdin Kaka, the eldest of the village, said sadly, "Who can avoid it now? Whatever had to happen has happened. But now it is not right to keep the body inside the house at night. So now, by placing a stone on our hearts, we have to go to Shashan and sleep Ramesh's dead body forever in the lap of the land before nightfall." There was an uproar in his family as soon as he heard about Ramesh being buried in the soil. But then everyone started the funeral rituals of Ramesh and took him in his lap by wearing new clothes of Nahladula and putting fragrant sandalwood on his forehead towards the crematorium. Evening was about to fall. The atmosphere of Shashan is anyway very wretched and frightening. But today a little boy was being cremated, so the atmosphere there seemed to be even more frightening. There were sounds of crying everywhere. Soon Ramesh was buried in the cremation ground where Ramesh was buried under the soil. After placing a burning lamp there, all the people returned to their respective homes crying and beating. That night, no stove was lit in anyone's house in the entire village. All of them starved and waited for the night to pass in misery. Ramesh's parents and grandmother were in such a bad state of crying that all 3 of them were now lying on the ground in a completely unconscious state. Here, all the villagers and Ramesh's family were immersed in grief. On the other hand, Aghori, who was meditating under the tree outside the village, heard the loud sound of owls in the silence of the night, as if there was a sudden shock. He immediately stood up from his seat. For a few moments, he closed his eyes and listened intently to the voice of those owls, and then suddenly a strange smile appeared on his lips. The aghori opened his eyes. He took his trident and started walking toward the village, taking rapid steps. As soon as they reached the village, Aghori headed straight to Ramesh's house. When some villagers and Ramesh's family members saw Aghori standing at the door of the house, they all were stunned. He had a long beard, mustache, and long matted hair. The aghori was wrapped in ashes all over his body. He had wrapped the skin of an animal around his waist and had a large rudraksha garland around his neck and hands. The red, ruddy eyes of the aghori were burning like burning coals. Hariya, an old farmer of the village, was also present at Ramesh's house at that time. Hariya fixed his turban and got up and came to the door and said to the aghori with folded hands, "What is the matter, Sadhu Maharaj? How did you come to the house of us poor today? Have we made a mistake?" Then Ramesh's father came running and fell at the feet of the half-dead and cried, "You hold this in your hand. Liberate me from this miserable life by killing me with the trident. I don't want to live anymore by losing my little one," Aghori said in a heavy voice. I know everything. I have come here to remove your sorrow." On hearing Aghori's words, Sonu's father immediately stood up and said, "You have come to remove the sorrow, then take it. Separate my neck from the torso right now." Now the aghori shouted with a thunderous thunder, "What are you talking about dying? Hey, I'm here. I have come to remove all your sorrow. I want to bring your son back to life and make you happy." Sonu's father screamed with surprise and joy. "Can you really bring my son back to life? You're not kidding, are you?" the aghori growled now. "Do you think I'm going to make a spectacle out of something like that? Look, if you want me to bring your son back to life, you have to accept my two conditions. The first condition is that none of you will come with me to the cremation ground. You all stay here. You will wait for me, and the second condition is that after being alive, you will never ask any questions to Ramesh or reprimand him for anything. He can come wherever he wants, whenever he wants during the night. No one will say anything to him." Hearing these conditions of aghori, Sonu's father immediately agreed. "I am ready to accept every condition to see my son alive again. Whatever you say, we will do as you say." The aghori shook his head. "Well then, first give me a piece of cloth that Ramesh is wearing and his favorite toy. Then stay here and wait until I get back. About Sonu." Sonu's father immediately brought a shirt and a toy from inside Lapak's house and gave it to aghori. The aghori kept both of those things in a bag hanging from his shoulder. Then he paused for a moment and warned them all, "Remember that no one will follow me. If someone makes such a mistake, Sonu will not be alive again. At the same time, those who make this mistake will also have to lose their lives." Everyone's mind was amazed by the words of aghori. They were upset, but in the desire to see Sonu alive again, everyone immediately agreed and sat there with folded hands and waited for aghori to return. In the dark night, the aghori walked with brisk steps and reached the village crematorium in a few minutes. There was such a terrible silence in the crematorium at this time that even the sound of a leaf shaking could be heard clearly. But as soon as the aghori stepped there, suddenly the bats hanging on the trees there and the owls sitting on the top of the branch suddenly screamed in fear. Flapping began to fly around. Aghori cast a glance at the cremation ground, then came to that place. After Ramesh was buried under the ground, a lamp was lit at that place. The light of the burning lamp had dimmed now. The fluttering flame of the lamp was just about to be extinguished. But before the flame of that lamp could be extinguished, aghori suddenly picked up the lamp and locked the lamp inside his palm and started reciting some mantras. The lamp was very hot, but its heat was not having any effect on the aghori. That's it. He was just muttering a few mantras incessantly. Then when aghori opened his palm after a few seconds, the flickering flame of that lamp was now burning with full force. The aghori put the lamp down to one side. Then he started spinning Ramesh's toy round and round over the burning flame of that lamp. When the toy started burning in the fire, the aghori placed it on top of Ramesh's cloth, and the next moment he took out a bone from his bag, and with its help he started digging the soil of that place. The aghori kept digging the soil until it was buried under the soil. Ramesh's dead body was not seen. On seeing the dead body, aghori stopped digging and putting the bone in the bag, He leaned forward a little and grabbed Ramesh's body lying inside the pit with his hands and pulled it up. Then placing the body down on the ground and circumambulating around that body, he started reciting some strange mantras loudly. As soon as every circumambulation was completed, he plucked a hair from the hair hanging from his head and threw it over the dead body. While doing this, when the aghori made 9 rounds of the dead body, the aghori suddenly bent over the dead body and his head. Placing one hand on top of it, he shouted loudly, "Make it your camp and stay." Here, now suddenly there is a lot of movement in that dead body, just as the waves rise and fall in the sea. In the same way, Ramesh's body was also rising up in the air and then falling on the ground below. Then suddenly there was silence everywhere. The aghori now stood up straight and said loudly, "How long will the boy lie dead as a dead man? You get up and put on the cloth in front of you." As soon as Aghori's talk was completed, a miracle happened, and Sonu's dead body suddenly opened its eyes and stood up. Sonu bent down like a machine and picked up his shirt and wore it. He picked up his toy and handed it to the aghori and said, "Tell me what to do now." The aghori first took out water from a vessel kept with him and washed Ramesh's face. Then he started reciting some mantra in his mind while applying a black tilak on his forehead. Ramesh stood motionless in his place like a wooden doll. His eyelids were also completely open, and he was not blinking at all. After a while, the aghori raised his trident in the air and waved it and said loudly, "Come on, boy, follow me." The aghori turned back and started walking toward the village. Sonu also started following aghori silently like any of his slaves. What was surprising was that Ramesh was not facing any problem, even while walking without slippers on rough, thorny ground in the dark. He walked as comfortably as if he were walking on a velvet rug. When Ramesh's family members and other people of the village followed him to aghori. When they saw Ramesh, they all screamed before they were surprised and shocked. Then they all died mad with joy. Shouting, he rushed towards Ramesh and picked him up in his arms and started dancing. No one could understand how Ramesh, who was dead, came back to life. Ramesh's father and the rest of the villagers started hailing aghori with all their might. They started returning to his feet and started bringing various kinds of offerings in front of the aghori, but the aghori did not even touch any of the offerings and roared loudly. "Remove all these trivial things from me. I am an aghori. What do I mean? It's like this useless stuff. I'm going to my place now. Take care of your boy. But remember, don't ever interrupt him for anything." The aghori warned, and then the next moment he walked away with speed. As soon as aghori left, Ramesh suddenly got down from his father's lap and sat under the tree outside the house. Seeing this, his mother and grandmother came running to him and held Ramesh's hand. "Why did you come and sit under this tree? It's been so late at night. You must be hungry. Let's go indoors. Go and eat bread and then sleep comfortably." Ramesh screamed in a hoarse voice, furious with rage. "Don't bother me. Get out of front of me or I'll break your heads." Hearing such a look and voice of Ramesh, not only mother and grandmother but also other people present, they were stunned. Then suddenly Ramesh's father remembered aghori's talk, and he quickly went to his mother and said, "Mother, let him sit here for now. Later, when he feels like eating, he will come into the house." All the people of the village went to their respective homes discussing this astonishing incident. Sonu's family members also went inside the house, but they kept the door of the house open a little so that whenever Ramesh wanted to come into the house, he could come in. But when everyone woke up in the morning, they saw that Ramesh was still sitting under the same tree. When his mother went to him and asked him to go home, Ramesh did not respond and just stared at his mother with his eyes open. Seeing the horrible savagery reflected in the eyes of that small child, his mother panicked and rushed to her husband and mother-in-law and said, "Hey Ram, what has happened to our child? Neither does he want to come to the house, nor does he want to talk to us. There is a very strange expression in his eyes. He looks like a stranger." Now the grandmother said in a panicked voice, "That aghori did not do anything to our child." Sonu's father got worried and said that now Sonu has returned after going to the mouth of death. Then there will be some bad effect on him, but in 2 to 4 days, maybe he will be the same again. Then Ramesh's father came out of the house after washing the bath and saw a horrible scene in the tree. Ramesh was sitting downstairs. All the birds living on that tree were lying dead on the ground below. Not only this, all the green leaves of that tree had also started to dry up. Ramesh clapping his hands and laughing fiercely at the sight of the dead birds lying on the ground. and was turning his head in a strange way. Now Ramesh's father's heart began to tremble with panic. He muttered to himself, "Something is wrong with Ramesh. I'll have to find out about that." Now Ramesh's father again ran straight to the village doctor and asked him to find Ramesh. Told about the condition, the doctor had gone to a nearby village last night to see another sick patient and stayed there as it was nightfall. He had just returned home 5 minutes ago. That is why he had no news of Ramesh being alive again. When Vaidya got the news of Ramesh's revival, he was not sure at first. When Ramesh's father repeated his oath, Vaidya's face turned white with fear. He said in a very frightened voice, "Oh God, what are you saying? How did this happen?" 1. How did Sonu come back to life after he died? Sonu's father panicked and said, "When that aghori Baba talked about reviving my son, I went mad with happiness. But now seeing Ramesh's antics, my heart is filled with fear. My son is acting like a devil." The doctor was very worried. "I am afraid of a big disaster. You do one thing, go and meet Shambhavi right now. You know that little hill temple across the river outside the village, don't you? Shambhavi is a village near the same temple. She lives in a hut," the owner's father said, upset. "I went to that temple last month. I didn't see a woman or a woman there." The doctor explained to him, "Shambhavi has just come to live there a week ago. I went to find my herbs on that hill. That's when I met Shambhavi. Shambhavi has a very sharp face and personality. Her thick long hair is long to the heels. Put a red tilak on the forehead and wear a mukhi rudraksha in the neck and ears. He is always absorbed in his meditation. Remains. When I asked about her while bowing my head at her feet, she said in a calm voice, "I am Shambhavi. I have taken a vow of devotion to Shiva throughout my life. I don't stay in one place for more than a month. I'll leave here as soon as I'm over a month." The doctor then said to Manikya's father, "You go to that goddess right now. God seems to have sent him here to help you." Manikya's father then immediately left the Vaidya's house and went to meet Shambhavi. When he came close to the hut while running there, he was completely astonished to see a divine form Shadhvi engrossed in meditation. Shambhavi was indeed a very pure and glorious form. Shambhavi was sitting with her eyes closed in Padmasana. Ramesh's father fell at his feet crying. Shambhavi said in a calm voice without opening his eyes, "You stand up. Then tell me your grief in peace." Sonu's father got up, wiping his tears, and standing there at a distance, he slowly started telling about his son and that aghori. When she told the whole thing to Shambhavi, Shambhavi suddenly stopped her. She opened her eyes and looked at Sonu's father. It seems that this is the same aghori who mysteriously disappeared from a village in Guwahati a year ago after sacrificing many people and taking an innocent child with him. When I reached that village, I had heard the horrific story of that aghori from the people there. Then Shambhavi started narrating the story of that aghori to Manikya's father. An aghori arrived in a small village in Guwahati. He was a strange and scary person about whom the people of the village had nothing to say. I knew. He started living in an old and broken ruined house, which was located on the outskirts of the village. The people of the village soon realized that some strange and scary things had started happening in the village since the arrival of the aghori. The children could not sleep at night, and when they slept, they had strange and scary dreams. People had started feeling that the presence of aghori had created a strange and scary atmosphere in the village. One night, a little boy died in that village. He was from a poor family, and his parents were very sad about his death. But when they buried his body, when he was getting ready, he saw that aghori was standing outside his house. The aghori told him that he could bring the child back to life, but for that he would have to make a big sacrifice. The parents thought it was a good opportunity, and they agreed to the aghori's suggestion. The aghori took the child's body with him and involved him in a strange and scary ritual. The child came alive at night, but he was no longer the same. His eyes were strange and frightening, and he could no longer speak. The aghori took control of the child and took it to his own. He began to engage in satanic activities. The child now roamed around the village at night, and he used to do strange and scary things for the aghori. The people of the village soon realized that the child was no longer the same, and that he had now become a demonic creature. The child started working for the aghori like a slave and started creating panic in the entire area. The family members of the child are very sad and try to take their child back with them, but the aghori stops them. On seeing that child, people used to change their path in panic. Now the villagers decided to evict the aghori from their village. But when they reached the broken house with a burning torch in their hands, they saw that both the aghori and the child were missing from there. Then he moved from Aghori Guwahati to Jhargram in the province of Bengal. When I reached Jhargram from Guwahati a month later, I came to know another new story about that aghori. But this time the aghori did not make a child, but a young man his victim. In this village too, the aghori lived in a broken hut outside the village. The shelter was built. There, in that hut, the aghori did not know what other activities he used to perform. None of the villagers wandered around the hut in fear, but one day a young man from that village knew what, and he reached the hut of aghori and started peeping there. The young man did not know that the aghori had seen him peeping into the hut. When the young man started to leave from there, the aghori called him and called him close to him. When the young man went inside the hut, the aghori used his mantra verbs to give him he subdued the young man. Now the young man had nothing of his own wisdom. It was as if he was tied to the house of that aghori. The aghori kept the young man in his house for several days and made him completely insane using his occult actions. One day the family of that young man sees him and he is very sad. They try to take the young man back with them, but aghori stops them. The young man's family members get very scared and they quickly take the young man and run away to their house. But the aghori in their house, he enters and starts looking for the young man. The family members of the young man are very scared and they try to save the young man. But this aghori is very powerful and dangerous. He grabs the young man back with the strength of his powers. The young man's family is very sad and they try to get him back. But aghori tells them that he will never leave this young man now and that he will take him with him. When the young man was released by the aghori from his house after several days, he went completely insane. He is back to his home. He came, but he didn't recognize his family. The young man's family took him to several physicians, but no one could cure him. Then one day the young man hanged himself from a peepal tree in the middle of the village. The villagers had already heard a lot about the occult rituals of the aghori, and now after the death of this young man, they started to fear the aghori even more. But one night, the young man's family members came to the hut of the aghori in anger and set it on fire. Everyone thought that in that fire, the aghori must have been burnt to ashes, but now listening to your words, it seems that the aghori did not die of water then. He had escaped from there, and now he has come from there to your village. It must be the same aghori who brought your child back to life by performing a spell on him. Hearing Shambhavi's words, Ramesh's father trembled with panic and said, "So what should I do now? How can I protect my mother from that aghori, Shambhavi of her village?" And her child now became very serious. Then emphasizing on each word, she said, "You understand one thing very well. The son is dead now. At this time, the one who is in the body of your son must be a slave ghost of aghori. If you can bear the death of that son of yours, then I have a solution. But first promise that you will not want to see your son alive again." Sonu's father started crying and said, "Okay, I will do as you say." Shambhavi stood up after hearing this. She immediately picked up a kamandala she was carrying and walked with Ramesh's father. On the way, Shambhavi explained to Ramesh's father that we should go there first. It will be where Ramesh will be sitting at this time. It is very important to control it first. Otherwise, that aghori will spell doom on the entire village through the ghost present in the body of that child. Once that child comes under our control, only then will we fight that aghori. Sonu's father's eyes welled up. He started thinking about how happy I was when that aghori brought my son back to life last night, and today I'm talking about my son's death again. Shambhavi read Sonu's father's thinking and said softly, "You are talking about your feelings. Get over it. Bear in mind that your son died last night and that it is impossible for someone who dies once in this world to come back to life." Ramesh's father nodded. It was late afternoon when Shambhavi and Ramesh's father reached the village. Seeing Shambhavi coming with Ramesh's father, the villagers started staring at them with a little surprise. They could not understand who this Shadhvi Tapwini was and why she had come to their village. Eagerly, the villagers followed them, and soon they were all at the place. They came to where Ramesh was sitting under the tree. But on seeing Ramesh, his father and the rest of the villagers got nervous and started screaming in fear. The size of Ramesh's head had grown strangely. His eyes also widened and looked like the eyes of a buffalo. Ramesh had the severed head of a goat in his hand, and blood was scattered all around it. Ramesh was also smeared with blood on his mouth, and blood splattered on his hands and clothes. It seemed that Ramesh had just caught the goat in his, "I have beaten you with my hands and eaten it." Shambhavi cautioned everyone and said, "No one will move forward now. Everybody stand here. Only I will go ahead and control this phantom. And remember one thing, no matter what happens, none of you will move from his place or utter a word." After warning everyone, Shambhavi now took a little water in her right hand from the kamandal she was holding in her hand, and then quickly moved forward and reached Ramesh, then immediately placed it on top of him in his hand. She screamed loudly as she splashed water. "Start. If not from the body of this child right now, then I will burn you to ashes." As soon as the water of the kamandal fell on Sonu's body, he started returning to the ground screaming so badly. It was as if someone had sprayed acid on him. Then he suddenly jumped in the air and hung upside down on the branch of the tree and shouted in a hoarse voice, "Beware, if you try to mess with me, you don't know what my strength has brought all these villagers here." Shambhavi shuddered with rage, and the next moment she took out the rudraksha she was wearing in one of her ears. He tossed it towards Ramesh, who was hanging from the tree. Rudraksh went straight and hit Manikya's head, and the next moment Ramesh fell down to the ground, screaming in a terrible voice. As soon as Manikya fell, Shambhavi pounced on him and put one hand on Ramesh's head with lightning and started reciting some strange mantra loudly. As Shambhavi was reciting the mantra, Ramesh was in agony. Then as soon as Shambhavi poured the water of his kamandal on him, Ramesh screamed loudly and became lifeless again. Shambhavi immediately placed Ramesh's dead body with her, put an ochre cloth and turned around and said to Ramesh's father, "Go pick it up now. Bury it in the crematorium in deep soil. Take it quickly." Ramesh's father and some other people quickly went ahead and started moving rapidly towards the crematorium with Ramesh wrapped in ochre cloth. Here, Shambhavi now reached Aghori's hideout directly. At that time, he was sitting meditating under the tree. Shambhavi placed her hand on the rudraksha garland hanging around her neck and started reciting a special mantra. As soon as the aghori heard this mantra, he became very angry and opened his eyes. He started screaming, "So you came here chasing me, but now I can't escape from here. I will make you a bat and hang you on this tree like I hung Dinu of this village. First I call my slave here, then we will teach you a lesson together." Shambhavi laughed. "Foolish horse, since when have I sent that slave of yours back to his ghost world? Now it's your turn to go to him. I'm sending it to you now. I will ride you in the same ghost world." Shambhavi finished his talk. Suddenly, she took out the garland from her neck and threw it at the aghori. As soon as that garland fell on the neck of that aghori, suddenly that garland turned into a trap of a strong rope. The rope began to tighten around the neck of the aghori. He squirmed violently and tried to get the noose out of his neck. But that noose tightened even more and tighter every moment in the neck. Aghori's eyes began to bulge. His long tongue also started hanging out, and then in a few moments the life of that aghori flew away. As soon as Aghori died, Shambhavi immediately recited the mantra and said that they set fire to the tree and the body of the aghori lying under the tree. In a short time, the aghori was reduced to water. Shambhavi looked at him with disdain and said, "You had forgotten, aghori, that even though the black forces dominate the human being for a while, but when those black forces are confronted with the devotees of God, then the black forces have to give up in front of their devotional power." Suddenly, a strong storm came and blew the ashes of the burnt body of Aghori into the air. Shambhavi remembered God with folded hands and then murmured, "Now I have to get out of this area. My purpose was fulfilled. Now I must get a long way out of here." Shambhavi moved away from there, moving at the speed of the wind. When Sonu's father returned home from Shashan with his villagers, there was a strange peace in the village. Everyone then went to the first aghori's hideout, but neither the aghori nor the tree under which the aghori used to sit. Then when everyone reached the temple across the river to thank Shambhavi, Shambhavi had gone from there. Everyone was surprised and started looking for him here and there. Then the old priest of that temple came there to worship in the evening. When Ramesh's father saw this, he rushed close to him and said, "Priest, where has the goddess who used to live near here go?" The priest first learned the whole thing from Ramesh's father. Then he took a deep breath and said, "Shambhavi is a great ascetic whose purpose is to eliminate black forces. Stop looking for her and now return to your village and remember for the future. Keep it. Never listen to any black energy and never think of going against nature. Everyone bowed to the priest and returned to their village. Sonu Tiyor, there was grief over the death of the son, but there was also happiness that his son's dead body was freed from the shadow of a black force. So friends, after listening to the story, you must have become very clear that why there is so much fear of aghoris. I am not saying that all types of aghori are bad. There are many aghoris who only care about their devotion to Lord Shiva, and they do not cause any harm to the common man. But many aghori are greedy. However, they don't care about money. They only care about power. That's more. They want to capture everything in their grasp by gaining more tantric power, and you cannot imagine how terrible their action is. Often, whenever one sees the aghoris, they are afraid of them because the aghoris have such powers that they can hypnotize someone just by looking at them, and you will not even realize that you have gone under the control of that aghori and have completely forgotten your existence. And the common ordinary tantric takes a lot of time to do these things. That's what these things are. Let's do it very quickly. So friends, this was our story today. Do tell us how you liked the story by commenting. And those who have not yet subscribed to the channel must subscribe to the channel. Take care of yourself and your family. I, your friend, will meet you soon with a new story. Thank you.